Up. Mm-hmm. Boing, wee, boing, wee, boing. There you go. Hello, hello, hello. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about it. Thanks, man. Something.
And there is one, when I said that he
Hello, I'm Phoebe if you're new, or welcome back, etc. It's Monday. It's been a bit of a slow morning because I'm cat sitting, Rolo the cat, and I needed to walk Melon this morning. So I'm here and about to do some work. This is my new mug. It's a Danone mug. That's the brand. My parents got it for me when they were in the UK having a holiday and visiting my brother. Nearly the end of January. It's been a while since I made a video. I think have since gotten an autism diagnosis. I had a birthday. I did vlog that day, but I don't know if I'll ever edit it because I was not feeling in a good mood. My parents were overseas, didn't have much family here, and it was hard to like organize things. So moving on, I sound a bit like a Grinch in that. Speaking of feeling like a Grinch, I watched a video essay which I found so helpful. I find a lot of comfort in gender, social studies, sociology theory, in putting words to the icky feeling in my brain. You might enjoy it. It's about the lack of third spaces, the changing nature of friendships and why that's leading to a lot of loneliness and like frustration, weaves in consumerism. While I don't think it's ever easy to like make sense of that, it does a really good job and as close as I think you can get in connecting all the themes. I don't know about you, but you know, it's not an easy time, and I think that's been resulting in a lot of nihilism for me. I almost feel like I get a spell of the nihilisms. Like, highly recommend that video for some clarity and language to frustrations. I have been in like job applying mode big time, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat because it seems like every second person in the creative industries very much like still looking. I've always really wanted to work for the Stephanie Alexander Kitchen Garden Foundation, which if you don't know, Stephanie Alexander is like a very famous, I think she's maybe 80 now, like Mary Berry level, but Australia doesn't really have celebrities, so not quite cook in Australia. Made famous less by seasonal cooking, but she had an incredible restaurant for a super long time called Stephanie's. In 2000, she started this program in schools where it's like food tech, cooking classes, but you have a vegetable garden and it's very symbiotic of the two, and learning where food comes from and growing the food, which you then make into delicious recipes. And it's a really, really wholesome program. And they're like, for job opportunities, follow the newsletter, etc, etc. I've never had a job opportunity come up. Then just by chance when I'm applying for things over Christmas, a perfect part-time position, perfect as can be, came up. And on paper, I think I look very suited to it. But my dad mentioned when I hadn't heard back, like after 10 working days or something, that they might have had someone in mind. I think that's what is happening with most positions at the moment. They have to advertise it because that's the law, but they all have someone in mind. And the job, I still haven't heard from them. I've also rung them. They haven't got back to me. I know that's the law, but it really sucks that you put the effort into applying and it plays with your hopes and dreams and expectations. But I also feel like a bit of a nincompoop because the whole program is like driven by community, and I'm pretty sure parents volunteer. Why would like an outsider who isn't volunteering get into a paid position? Of course I'd have people in mind, but that with like price of living and rent increases that every second friend seems to be experiencing, quite the vibe of a time. What has been keeping me sane, and I feel like this is so silly, but it feels like truth, is that writing feels like a backup option or backup plan for me at the moment. Not in terms of like a capitalist type of backup plan, but just a soul and like under capitalism it feels fulfilling and right kind of thing and worth doing. I've been applying for so many fellowships and stipends and grants, which involves like getting letters of recommendation or letters of support, which is slightly humbling but also so lovely, and I got the max amount that they ask for, so that feels good. And they're grants to facilitate my book length work. Exciting and very daunting, but the grant is, you know, maybe to fund predominantly mentorship, so it's like contacting the people you would ideally like to be your mentor. It's all very like ideally and what if and like would you. And the author of some of my favorite autistic protagonists featuring fiction said she loved my idea and wish it was published yesterday, which is like, oh, what a boost. I don't feel like I should name drop her, but she's an Australian author. Australian writing community, I feel like the longer I exist in it, the more generous and supportive and like reciprocity filled it is. It's like a restore faith in the world kind of vibe, you know? So I'm very grateful for that at the moment. And cooking, because I'm not micro baking at the moment, and I haven't mentioned it elsewhere, but ideally I would find a job that is more sustainable than the micro bakery. That's a work in progress, but just all to say that cooking has been solely for me and my family occasionally, but not for other people, and that has just seemed to like 180 the strain it sort of feels to do, and it's meant that my progress on my next cookbook is like zoop. I had been not quite totally sold on the point or angle or title or theme of this cookbook, but I knew I wanted it to be super heavily inspired by the Vintage Woman's Weekly cookbooks, because if you don't know, I became quite into collecting them and geeking out over them, and like I guess my pattern recognition really got a lot out of them, because they're just a very entertaining, fascinating, kind of problematic, but yeah, thrilling for me example of Australian cooking at a point in time, domesticity and gender expectations and continental cooking. It's not that I want to emulate that, it's that I want to nod to them, especially in terms of aesthetics, because it's like so iconic and I think kind of timeless, and like it have a slight retro nod, but the inspiration taken from that will be a bit more subtle, and that actually what I want to do with this cookbook is much more joy of cooking related, but it's not called that or anything. It's still a while away off. I'm still just in the happily exploring recipe developing phase, but I'm really enjoying that. I have just finished work for the day and I'm shortly gonna head to hot yoga. I've gone to this class on a Monday evening pretty much for a year consistently now, and the saying, oh, yoga is for everyone but every teacher isn't, I resonate with. I really like this yoga instructor. It doesn't feel like hard, it just feels like play or movement which feels good. And I've been in some yoga classes which, whether it's my brain or my body, it just feels very punishing and like an exam. And what's that about? I watched back a clip from this morning in putting it on my laptop earlier to edit this vlog, and it is so jarring. I didn't have this complex doing YouTube until like a few years ago, but it's just growing, and that your body changes very much, and like you could give birth if you so chose or didn't, and like yeah, your shape and everything reflects that. I feel like physically like the fittest I have been in my adult life, but yeah, bodies change, especially female ones. And I used to not mind at all seeing myself in video, and now I just don't. I'd say I even remotely enjoyed it, like, oh, that's so aesthetic and like symmetrical, and the shot's cute and I'm cute in it. And now it's like I spoil the shot and I don't enjoy having to edit myself. But I think it's very much would be true that like in a few years time I would look back and be like, what were you on about? Just to share a humbling experience recently, since I've been doing hot yoga and reformer Pilates consistently, I love them both, but with teachers you like being the caveat there. I've wanted to try like something more strength based or something slightly cardio based to maybe make my endurance better so I could do the harder Pilates classes. I haven't tried a weights class yet, that's on my list, but I tried a hot mat Pilates class and it was hard. I was fine until they saved the cardio bit for the end, and I think it was more a combination of I was right next to a speaker, it was so loud, I put myself in the back corner of the room and it was a packed long weekend class, so you do cardio on both sides. I just sat down for the second side, so really I did pretty well. It's just that no one else in the class seemed to be struggling to the point they needed to sit down so they didn't faint. And like the teacher was coming over and I was like, oh no, I just expected to be told off, but she was so nice. You know what I realized after? She had the vibe of, and this is like a Roman Empire thing, she had the vibe of Asina O'Neill. Obviously a different person, because it wasn't Asina O'Neill, but just the same like very kind energy. And she's like, you can step out or just sit down, we're nearly done. I don't know, has anyone ever gotten into that? And how did they survive the first few brutal sessions?